So let's talk about a political figure. She was the former head of the Federal Reserve and is now,
Chairwoman.
chairwoman, and now acting US Treasury Secretary. So Janet Yellen, she has made from 2019 to 2020 $7.26 million from speeches. Yes. So if we look at our wonderful website, it'll show that the majority of these speeches, the former head of, the majority of these speeches were given to Goldman Sachs, Credit Suisse, Deloitte, Salesforce, Citadel, other Wall Street banks, and large corporations. Uh, Janet Yellen got paid $810,000 for 2 speeches and a series of webinars. Can you guess which one? Which corporation? It was Citadel. We can see on here on page 2 of this PDF that they first start out with the City National Bank speaking fee, $90,000, and it keeps going. We could go to page 6 of the PDF, and halfway down we have UBS, Wealth Vest, $125,000 for $112,000 for a speech, $90,000 for a speech, $157,000 for a speech, like speaking fees, and it keeps getting. I don't know if it keeps getting better for her, worse as I keep scrolling down and seeing these. You can see a lot. Citadel, number 49, $337,500 speaking fee. Now, I don't know about you, but if you're the Secretary, the Treasury Secretary of the United States of America, and have a lot of political sway, I would feel like this is an ethical violation and a huge conflict of interest, especially when they are trying to impose laws on these big banks, on these big corporations. What do you think?
It's the problem with, as I've said before, the problem with finance, the problem with most things in the world, is not the institutions. It's the people that run them. It's the people that misuse, the people that find ways around them. You cannot be a regulator of an industry and take paychecks of any kind from that industry. That is, by definition, a conflict of interest. If a judge in a courtroom knows any of the parties in the case, the judge must recuse themselves of the case. You will literally sit there for days and go through jury selection until the lawyers have found jurors that not only have no relation or knowledge of who these people are, but have no bias towards the case. There's a reason for this. It's because they get the most unbiased, the true form of justice, right? The most objective outcome. You do not want any bias. You do not want any influence on that process. And more aptly now for the financial markets, in 2008, right, the 2008 crisis, the problem wasn't necessarily that the rating agencies didn't do their job. The problem was there was a conflict of interest. Rating agencies get paid by the companies that rate them. So they rate products, so assets and debts and all this stuff, right? They rate all these things. But if companies don't like their ratings, or they go against their wishes, they'll go and hire one of the other rating companies to rate for them. Remember, it's not just like there's one rating agency. It's a competitive market. There are multiple companies that offer ratings that we generally look at in comparison, but we generally have like Standard & Poor's, Edgar Jones, there's a bunch of others. There's like a handful of 4 or 5 of these guys that are the major ones at the top. And that was a huge problem because they weren't paying attention to what was actually in all these securitized assets that were being pumped out to the market and advertised as AAA nonsense. And in reality, it was all garbage. If you want to have an uninfluenced, unbiased way of truly regulating these companies, you should not be allowed to be paid by them to do anything. I think it is ridiculous. I think it should be number 1 on your list. If you're a regulator, your role is not to make yourself rich. Your role is not to become profitable. You can become profitable, but that's not your role. Your job is bigger than yourself. You're a regulatory official. Your job is to regulate, to keep the objective of a fair and objective market for everyone. So it will, and people, you can argue all along that there won't be an influence, but we all know from history, okay, that is just a way, an additional tactic of getting some leeway when it comes to regulatory affairs, when it comes to the restrictions and the punishments that come down. We need people in the regulatory bodies that are capable of saying we need to do progressive regulation on these things like dark pools, on these activities like fraudulent shorting. And we need to have people that are willing to actually say, I'm not hurting my friends, I'm doing my job. And if you get paid by these companies, it creates a significant conflict of interest and brings severely into question your ability to actually do your job. So I think it's piss that this is happening, and I think it shouldn't exist for Janet Yellen, for any official. If you're a regulatory official, you're not doing speeches with the people you're supposed to be regulating. That's just ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I do not think for a second that anyone that does this type of partakes in this type of activity is truly going to be an objective and unbiased regulator and do their job to the fullest extent that they should be. I don't believe that for a second.
Are you kidding me? They know that if they give enough money, that it's going to sway them in a way that it's going to be favorable for them. And that's just human nature. When it comes to psychology, if I give you something, you're going to feel obligated to help me out if I ask you, hey, can you help me out with this? Here's a favor. You gave me money. I can do you a favor later on. And that's just politics for you. It's all about favors. And that X amount of money, that $7 million that she's been accumulating, let me tell you, she's not strapped for cash. She makes a lot of money. She's one of the top people. She has an ear to the president. So you think she has so much power? Do you think she needs that money? No. Banks know she doesn't need that money, but it's just, a little extra on top just to help them sway with the regulations. Can't tell me it's not. You can't tell me that's an ethical practice.
That's ridiculous. Well, we'll keep following, and we'll see if she ever gets sued or taken down a step. But
you have to understand, I understand from her perspective what she's doing, and she's not doing anything illegal. What my point here specifically is that going forward, we need to address this issue as we progress into the future. If we really want to have new regulations and laws and reform what we have, you have to start with the people. Because everyone wants to talk about the banks. The people are the problem. If you're not going to reform the people, if you're not going to try to pursue personal liabilities for the people that commit fraud, if you're not going to make the people feel like there's punishment that's actually going to happen to them, then there's really no reason for them to stop. And it's just, you either do the right thing and you go after the people, and that's unpopular and people don't like you, and that's too bad because of the job, or you're nothing more than a puppet. You're nothing more than a figurehead and a mouthpiece. You're not a regulator. You don't deserve to be praised. You don't deserve to be revered. It doesn't matter about your legacy, because if in the end all you do is sit there for profits, and all you do is care about yourself when you are in roles that you're supposed to care about a bigger than yourself entity, I have no respect for that. I don't understand why we allow that to happen. And that's because the old way still exists, and we need a new way. And this will take time, but that's what we have to target. Fix the people, and they'll fix the industries.
It's interesting that when I see this filing on page 16 of their filing, it says there's an area that says gifts and travel reimbursement, and it says NA not required for this type of report. So they need to find a way that it's not a gift, it's a service, and that service is speaking. So that's their loop. That's their little loophole.
The amount of things these companies can just hide off to the side is not real. And why do they do that? Because it's unnecessary to report? No, because they know if they reported it, people might actually ask questions, and then they'd have to justify it. Then we have to get into this where they know that some of the things they do bend the rules. They just want to make it easy so that all companies can play this field. But the problem is there are many more consumers and retail investors than there are big institutions and companies. If you're going to stack the odds for the big boys, when the little guys at the bottom don't even get a 1-to-1 vote in our democracy, I don't understand what our power is as individuals, unless we come together. And then when everyone comes together, it's all, look at the mobs. The mobs are here, and everyone's coming to rooting, and it's a bunch of lunatics. But if you're gonna rig the game for the big boys, then all the people can do is form a mob and take you down. So I don't know why you think that's so crazy and ridiculous. Maybe look at a mirror first before you start calling out people. Look in a mirror and ask yourself, are you really doing the best thing that you could be doing? Are you truly trying to make a difference, or are you just in it for yourself? Because if you are, you're no better than the thing that everybody wants to take down anyway. So you're going to be next in the fire, and I don't know why you should expect anything else.